بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله تعالى سيدنا محمد أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه إلى يوم الدين. والتعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير ونفع الانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله عدد كل حرف كتب أكتب أبدا أبدي وداخل داخلين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من ضلال وضلال وزنا وزنا أظلم أو أجهل أو يجهل علي. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية الراحمين يا رحمن الراحمين يا رحمن الراحمين. طيب, so we are still going over the chapter of fasting from the book The Councils of Religion by Imam al-Haddad. And we covered the first part of the book. He talked about the virtues of Ramadan to help us understand the importance of this time. And from the most important meanings that he relayed to us was that this is a month of immense mercy from Allah Ta'ala, just being poured and showered upon his servants. That he, in the first third of the month, which has just passed us, he's merciful to his servants. In the second third of the month, which we are just now entering, he forgives his servants. And in the last third of the month, he emancipates them or frees them from the fire. And it's mentioned in the famous hadith that the Prophet said, whoever fasts Ramadan believing in God and sincerely fasting Ramadan while believing in Allah Ta'ala, all his previous sins will be forgiven. And the other hadith where the Prophet said that, Ramadan, just by virtue of Ramadan entering, one's previous sins from between the last Ramadan to the current one are also forgiven. So all these narrations that all allude to the vastness and the mercy of Allah Ta'ala in this blessed month. And then the author transitioned after that too, mentioning the etiquettes of the fasting individual. What should one do while they fast to maximize their reward? What should one do when they fast to maximize their reward and to not be amongst the people that the Prophet warned about, where he said, how many people fast and all they have from their fast is hunger and thirst, as in they don't get any reward. They've checked the box, they don't have to make it up, but they don't get any reward. And so it's important for us to reflect on these meanings, right? It's very, very important for us to reflect upon these meanings. The hadith says clearly, whoever fasts Ramadan, believing in God and sincerely for him, all their previous sins are forgiven. This is what's in store for someone who just fasts. Most people who are fasting believe in Allah Ta'ala. Most people who are fasting are sincere. What's in store for most people is forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala. So what about if you go above and beyond? What happens if someone decides to practice these etiquettes of fasting, if someone decides to maximize their reward, if someone decides to perfect this aspect of worship, what could possibly be in store for them better than forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala? What's in store for them? مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أَذِنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. Something that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and has not occurred or ever been occurred to the hearts of mankind. Something that's unimaginable. Lofty degrees of heaven waiting for people to populate them. Being with the Prophet ﷺ in this world, in terms of one's state, in terms of one following the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and being with him in the next world. Physically being with him in the next world, in those lofty degrees of paradise. Having the pleasure of one's Lord, not just as pardon and forgiveness, but also having his pleasure and his words when he says to his elect servants that he will never be angry with them ever again. So if all we were to do is fast this month and achieve forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala, just putting in the extra effort garners rewards that cannot even cross our minds. It's completely unimaginable. Completely unimaginable. And it's a promise from Allah Ta'ala waiting for those who perfect his worship generally and this specific worship specifically. So continuing where he left off, he's now saying in the book, it is of the sunnah to hasten to break one's fast and that it be done with dates, or if dates are unavailable, with water. The Prophet, may God's blessings and peace be upon him, used to break his fast before praying Maghrib. He said that people shall remain in a good state so long as they hasten with breaking their fast and delay their suhood. Therefore, delaying suhood is also a sunnah. And so now he's talking about a new etiquette of fasting, a new sunnah, which is to hasten to break one's fast. So the first thing is to hasten to break your fast, which means don't don't fast into the night unnecessarily. It doesn't mean hasten so much that you're doubtful whether you've actually fasted the daytime or not. Some people, they hear this hadith and they're like, khalas, we have to hasten to break our fast. As soon as they hear any word that sounds like Allahu Akbar, they'll break their fast. As soon as they hear someone saying potentially it's time for Maghrib, they'll break their fast. No, what he's talking about is once you are sure Maghrib has entered, then hasten to break your fast. Don't fast unnecessarily into the night. If someone has to, for whatever reason, food's not available, food's not ready, they're traveling, they're driving, they're busy with something, that's fine, right? But for someone to unnecessarily prolong their fast into the night is not from the Sunnah of the Prophet. So once one is sure Maghrib has entered, either because they've seen the sunset themselves, or because they have a reliable source telling them, like a mu'adhin giving adhan, for example, or they have their apps and they're careful with how much time they add to it, for example. All these things, once they're sure Maghrib has entered, then one should hasten to break their fast. But what do you break your fast on? It's sunnah to break your fast on dates. If you don't have dates, then water. If you don't have water, then any sort of fresh fruit or anything that's sweet and fresh that's not cooked. If you don't have that, anything that's sweet but cooked. So those sugar cookies being passed around, you can break your fast on that if you don't find anything else above it on the list. The Prophet ﷺ used to break his fast, then pray Maghrib. He used to break his fast, then pray Maghrib. So sunnah is to break your fast, then pray Maghrib. Although, if one wants to pray Maghrib while they're still fasting, they're able to. That's fine. That's allowed. But the sunnah is to break your fast, then pray Maghrib. And then he also said in the hadith that from the goodness of this ummah, the ummah is still on goodness so long as they hasten to break their fast and delay their suhoor. Delaying suhoor means not to delay it so much that you're eating while the sun comes up. It means to delay it as much as possible to the sunnah time where it's recommended to stop eating. So it's recommended to stop eating when? About 20 to 30 minutes before the adhan of fajr. Okay? So to delay your suhoor as much as possible until that point. All right? Although you are allowed to eat up until the adhan of fajr, it's sunnah to stop eating about 20 or so minutes before the adhan of fajr. And the time for suhoor enters when? After the halfway point of the night. So for example, let's say, all right, Maghrib comes in what now? It is almost 8 o'clock, right? So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 o'clock is Fajr, right? About 6 o'clock. About 10 hours long is the night here in Detroit, Michigan. So if 5 hours after Maghrib, all right, 5 hours after Maghrib is when one can start eating suhoor. If one eats, it fulfills the sunnah of eating suhoor. He continues, he says, the fasting person should eat in moderation, so that the effects of fasting may show on him and he may attain its secret end goal, which are disciplining the soul and weakening its appetites. Hunger and an empty stomach have a great effect in illuminating the heart and infusing the bodily members with energy for worship. On the contrary, satiety, yani being full, is the origin of hardiness, distraction, and laziness in obedience. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the son of Adam never fills a vessel worse than his stomach. It is sufficient for the son of Adam to have a few morsels to keep his back straight. If he must, then a third for his food, a third for his beverage, and a third for his breath. Okay? A third, and a third. So, he's telling us now to avoid overeating. There's the fruits of fasting, which is having control over your desires and your appetites. It's not going to happen if someone overindulges in Ramadan during the nighttime, right? If someone's going to make up all the lost calories from the daytime, okay, they're not going to see the fruits of their fast. The fruits of, the exercise in self-discipline, the exercise in restraining oneself, the exercise of letting the hunger that one feels while they fast polish one's heart, okay? And he says, the Prophet says, he mentions the hadith that the worst thing one can feel as a human being is your stomach. And that it's enough for someone just to eat enough, just to keep their back straight, which is what the great pious Sahaba used to do. Okay? And if one can't do that, which is most of us, then a third, and a third. A third for food, and a third for water, and a third for air. Now, how does one start on the path of a third, and a third? There's a story of one of the great awliya. He invited some people over for dinner, right? And so this Bedouin man comes and he's eating with them, and he notices this scholar, this funny, he's eating a lot. So he looks at him and he's like, you're eating a lot for someone who's pious. Isn't it supposed to be a third, a third, and a third? And the man just looks at him. The pious man looks at him and says, everyone knows everyone, and كل الناس أعرف بثلثهم. And everyone is more knowing of the third, right? Everyone is more knowing of the third, right? So everyone has a third, and you know what your third is, right? You know what your third is. But to start, just as a starting exercise, to learn how to have self-restraint, to leave the dinner table and you still want more, even if it's just one bite, right? If one just starts to do that, to exercise that, to leave the dinner table and you want more, even just one bite, it sets you on the road of self-restraint and learning how to have only a third for food, a third for water, and a third for air. Tamam? He continues, he says, someone once said, when the stomach is satiated, all the members become hungry. But when the stomach is hungry, the members are satiated. I say, hunger for the members is to demand and insist to satisfy their appetites. The tongue desires to talk, the eyes to look, the ears to listen, and so on. They are only moved to demand what is in excess of their needs when the stomach is full. On the other hand, when it is empty, they become quiet and tranquil, which is expressed as a satiety of the members. This is an observable fact, and God knows best. He's saying now that when one is full and satiated, one's limbs are more prone to sin. One's limbs are more prone to sin when one's appetites are satiated. Whereas when one's appetites are not satiated, right, when they're kept at bay, right, one's limbs are less prone to sin, less prone to sin. And this is something he says that you just have to try it to see it for yourself. You have to just try it to see it for yourself, to keep yourself hungry a little bit, right, to not overeat throughout your entire life, not just in Ramadan. It keeps one's limbs in checks. So what you say is in control of yourself. What you see is in control of yourself. What you hear and what you do, all of it is in control of yourself if you're able to restrain your stomach, if you're able to restrain your appetite. But it is strongly recommended to help those about to break their fast by offering them something, preferably dates if possible. If not, then water. He said, may God's blessings and peace be upon him. He at whose hands a fasting person breaks his fast shall receive an equal wage without this diminishing his wage in any way. This hadith is saying, the Prophet is saying that whoever helps a fasting person break their fast. So for example, people bring dates here to Al-Rahma, people, they bring food for us, for the attendees. Whoever helps someone break their fast by providing them what to break their fast with, whether it's water or dates or whatever, right? They will receive reward as if they fasted as well, right? They will receive reward as if they fasted as well. And the reward of the faster is not diminished. So the fasting person gets rewarded for fasting. The person who fed him gets rewarded as well as if he fasted by feeding a fasting person. So if someone fasted and helped someone else break their fast, they get 2 rewards as if they fasted 2 days. Okay? Meaning that the wage of the fasting person remains undiminished. This reward belongs to him at whose hands is the fast is broken, even if only with water. As for he who feeds a fasting person who has already broken his fast, whether by inviting him to his house or elsewhere, he does not receive this particular reward, but that of feeding people, which is also immense, and that equally great of feeding the fasting person to satiety. Should he offer him enough food to satiate him fully? So if someone feeds people who are fasting, offers them dinner. So for example, someone came, they broke their fast somewhere, right? And then someone else said, come to my house, have dinner, provides dinner for them. They didn't help them break their fast, so to speak, right? They already broke their fast. But just the action of feeding them also has immense reward. It also has immense reward. Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, the very first words, the first general counsel he gave the people of Medina when he first entered Medina, he said, أيها الناس, أفشوا السلام, أطعموا الناس, أشفوا السلام, وصلوا بالليل والناس نيام, تدخلوا الجنة بالسلام. He said, feed people, spread peace or give salams, and pray while people are asleep, and you will enter Jannah easily. All right, easily. So feeding people is of great virtue and reward, although there's a difference again between helping someone immediately break their fast versus just giving them dinner in general. But there's still a great reward in that one. Tamam? There is still a great reward in that one. طيب. Now he's transitioning now to a section about Tarawih, talking about this form of worship that is specific to Ramadan as well, just like how fasting is specific to Ramadan. He says, the Tarawih prayers every night of Ramadan are a sunnah. Okay, so it's sunnah for the individual to pray Taraweeh in Ramadan. 20 rak'ah is the maximum. Sunnah to pray 20 rak'ah of Taraweeh during Ramadan. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ, in his lifetime, he prayed it a few times in congregation with his companions, and then he left it to pray at home. And the companions asked him, "Why don't you pray with us in congregation anymore?" He said that he's worried that if it becomes a habit of the ummah while he's alive, it will become obligatory upon people later on, and that it will be difficult for them to fulfill it. So in his actions, there was mercy for his ummah, and he's looking forward, hundreds or thousands of years into the future, knowing that his religion will spread to corners of the world, or potentially people will have just a very short time, right, to break their fast, to pray, and to get ready for suhoor and for work. Some parts of the world, I spent a summer once in England, fasting there, and from the moment the adhan of Maghrib went off, you were sprinting. You break your fast, you pray sunnahs, you have dinner, you get ready for Isha, you pray Taraweeh. After that, you get ready for suhoor, you have fajr, and then you're off to work. Yeah. If at any point in time you just stop to tie your shoes, you're done. You've lost track of time. You missed out on something for sure. So there are people like that who are in situations where it can be difficult for them potentially to pray Taraweeh. And the Prophet ﷺ, in his immense mercy and wisdom, he took the specific path. So Taraweeh is a sunnah for the ummah to pray 20 rak'ah every single night in congregation. So now, the question now is that the Prophet ﷺ didn't do it in congregation. Why are we doing it now? The reason is because in the time of Umar bin al-Khattab, anhu, he would come to the masjid while he was the Khalifa, and he would see people either praying by themselves or praying in small congregations in the masjid. So imagine the masjid's full at night, and just there are pockets of people praying Taraweeh, either independently or in small congregations. And he thought, why don't we just put everyone behind one imam, right? So then he took counsel with Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, and he asked him, "What do you think? We just put everyone behind one imam, let everyone pray together. A larger congregation means more reward, right? And even though Prophet didn't do this in his lifetime, there's a good reason to do it now, right?" And then Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib said, "What?" He said, "Ni'matu bid'atin hada." He said that this is a good innovation. He literally used the word innovation. He said, "This is a great innovation. This is a great thing you're bringing into the ummah." So Umar ibn al-Khattab in this case was innovating, but a good innovation. طيب. So he says the custom of the virtuous ancestors, when God have mercy on them, was to divide the Quran in parts, one of which to be recited every night, so as to complete it during one of the last nights of the month, which is the habit of many in the ummah. Al-Rahma, we do that. In other masajid here in America, in Detroit, we do that as well. It's something that the ummah has adopted as a norm during Ramadan. Although in some places, right? In some places, they do cater to the congregants if necessary. So, for example, where we studied in Hadramaut, a lot of times the congregants would be like farmers or tradesmen who have to get up really early, right, to tend to their fields or their flocks or whatever it is, right? So what they would do is they would, for example, keep Taraweeh short. They would do duha, from Surah al-Duha to Nas every day in Taraweeh. So every rak'ah is just, like a normal Maghrib or a normal Isha. Okay? And they would do a khatam outside of Taraweeh in the masjid. So after Dhuhr, for example, when everyone, people can't go to work in the fields or outside because it's too hot and too sunny, they would come in and read Quran together. The juz they would have done in Taraweeh, if they're doing Taraweeh, right, a long Taraweeh, they would do it reading together after Dhuhr, but they would still do the khatam one at the end of in prayer to get the reward of finishing the Quran in prayer. MashaAllah. طيب. So you see people get creative in they get very creative in how to accrue good deeds and how to fulfill sunnahs. They get very creative, MashaAllah. طيب. So he says now, he who can emulate them in this, let him be diligent, for good comes in opportunities that must be seized. Whatever good you send forward for yourselves, you shall find it with God. He who is unable to emulate it, let him be aware of shortening his prayers excessively, as many ignorant people do with Taraweeh, to the extent that they may miss some of the obligatory parts of the prayer, such as not pausing at all during bowing down or prostrating, or reciting the Fatiha so quickly that it comes out incorrectly. In the sight of God, such people have neither prayed and won the reward, nor abandoned the prayer altogether, thereby feeling neglectful, which feeling keeps them safe from self-admiration. This and similar things are for believers among the greatest deceptions of the devil. He allows one of them to perform the act but causes it to become nullified. So be aware of this and be attentive, O brothers. So now he's saying some people fall into the bad habit of hastening their prayers during Tarawih. So they're saying, we want to pray fast. It's 20 rakats, it's a long night. They have things to do in the morning, work or something like that. So they pray really fast. They pray so fast, maybe their Fatiha comes out incorrect. Maybe they don't pause long enough in the ruku or sujood. The point is, they consider themselves to have prayed, but because they're praying so fast, the prayer is invalid. So author is saying, be careful of being like that. Why? Because you think you've prayed and you've done something good, but because you were trying to be so fast, the shaitan tricked you and your prayers are invalid. Your prayers are invalid. So if you were to not have prayed at all, at least you'd be, looking down on yourself like, oh, if only I could pray, if only I should have prayed, I should rearrange my time, I should have more motivation. At least you'd be, pushing yourself and admitting some level of shortcoming. Because you think you've prayed, right? You're not doing that. You're feeling good about yourself. But there's no reward because your prayer is invalid. It's the ultimate deceit of the shaitan, where he comes to a believer and nullifies their worship by making them do it incorrectly. But the believer thinks they worshipped, and so they hold their head high and haughty. Whereas someone who didn't do it at all, at least they feel bad. They feel bad. I should have done it, right? They know they didn't do it, but they feel like they should have done it. But this person, they did it incorrectly, but they think they did it, and so they hold their head high and haughty, and the devil, is laughing behind their back. He says, when you pray tarawih or any other prayer, complete your standing up recitation, bowing, prostration, humility, presence, and other duties and courtesies. Meaning, do it completely as you were taught to do. Do not give the devil sway over you, for he has no power over those who believe and rely on their Lord. So be of those. His authority is over those who take him for an ally and associate others with God. So do not be of those. Do not be of those. Now, so with that said, he mentioned just some of the extra actions we have to do in this blessed month, and this extra etiquettes we have to be aware of to maximize our reward. And the most important thing we have to remember, honestly, during this blessed month is that we shouldn't think of ourselves as people running from something. We are running to something. We're not running from, the wrath of Allah Ta'ala. We're not running from the potential opportunity of having a fast that is void of any reward. Okay? We don't want Allah to be mad at us or to be upset with us or to be angry with us. And we don't want to have a fast that is void of any reward. But if we conceptualize all these etiquettes as something that will help us run to something great, to achieve something great, it builds inspiration in one's heart. It gives you motivation. It gives you determination. It makes everything that would normally be difficult easy for you, right? Whereas if someone just conceptualizes all this as they're running from something, they're just trying to keep the fire at bay, it's going to be a bitter medicine, right? It's going to be bitter. It's not going to be sweet. But if you think of something, you're going to run to something, even the most tedious of things during your journey will be sweet. Even the most tedious of things during your journey will be sweet. So ask Allah Ta'ala to give us tawfiq and beneficial knowledge, that we act upon it, and that He accepts our actions, and then gives us tawfiq to spread all over the world, and that He makes the Prophet ﷺ happy with us, and He rewards all of our shuyukh and our teachers and our parents, all those that have rights upon us, with the Hadrat Nabi.